Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in-depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high-octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling. I'm your host, Josh, the Titan of Takedowns, and joining me, as always, is my incredible co-host, the Duchess of Devastation, Dawn. Tonight, we're covering WWE SmackDown from March 7th and WWE RAW from March 10th.
Ooh.
Let's get into it.
I sound so official.
Why, thank you. This is our first time doing a double episode, partly because the weekend was relatively busy, so we didn't get to SmackDown as fast as we would like, but in reviewing both shows, we realized that I think in one show we could cover both. So let's go for it.
Yeah.
In chronological order, we'll start with SmackDown. The first thing that happened on SmackDown was Drew McIntyre ambushing Damian Priest. He was apparently very upset about the events of Elimination Chamber.
Hot cross.
And so he attacks him and runs him into some storage boxes and proceeds to kick the crap out of him and then stalks off to wherever Drew goes in between segments. Then we are brought to Randy Orton opening the show, and everybody was real happy to see him back because he made his return at Elimination Chamber at the end of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn's match.
Longest holiday vacation ever.
Yeah, for what wasn't even a package pile driver, it was just a standard pile driver. He was the one out the longest, so maybe get that neck looked at there, Randy.
And that's a standard pile drive. Listen, not package for the 800th time, Michael.
Indeed. Yeah, they keep calling it a package pile driver, and it's like, but I mean, Michael Cole constantly calls things what they aren't. So, I mean, that's just to be expected at this point. But
stop it, just a little guy.
He's new, y'all. So you know,
yeah.
Him and Tony Schiavone haven't been doing this that long, so there's no way they could possibly know what all of these moves are. But I digress. Randy Orton made a point to point out that John Cena had always been at the top of the profession, but now he's just a bottom for The Rock. A whole new meaning to rock bottom. That was about the kitschiest thing he said.
Mic drop.
He then went on to say that Kevin Owens, the wrestler he respects, but Kevin Owens, the man, sucks ass. And, well, there you go. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Then we have a cutaway to the back where Chelsea Green is interrupted by Tiffany Stratton. Chelsea Green interrupts Tiffany Stratton's conversation with Nick Aldis, saying it's blasphemous that she's forced to defend her championship in a street fight. And I think it's blasphemous for WWE to call what they call a street fight, considering some of the other stuff we've seen.
Yeah.
But long story short, Tiffany then poorly reacts to Piper Niven saying some stuff to her and challenges Piper for a match. And Chelsea says, no, she can't be in a match. She's my secret Hervis. And Nick reminds her that Piper, in fact, works for the WWE and not Chelsea Green. And so he makes the match, which is the first match of the night, Tiffany Stratton versus Piper Niven. This was an okay match. It wasn't anything like to write home about. And honestly, the match was mostly to set the stage for, Piper being a little out of it for the upcoming match that Chelsea has later in the evening. Ultimately, Tiffany wins as the champion. And the other thing that this match serviced was that even though Tiffany won the match, Charlotte Flair comes out to attack her. This match more or less felt like it was almost a pretense for that entirely. And Charlotte attacks her, and then she delivers the figure 8. And that almost is the entire purpose for the existence of this match. Otherwise, it was a fairly meh match.
And WWE has a theme, and you'll catch on to it, I think, between these two episodes. But they have a theme going when it comes to their superstars that are going to be in a WrestleMania match. They have a theme.
Yeah. And this is kind of a theme that's going to run over into our WWE coverage, or Raw coverage, I should say, is that several matches seem to exist solely for the purpose of building up or being a long play to a promo for what's coming in the future. And the matches themselves are relatively meh to mid. Yeah, I mean, they're not anything to write home about.
Yeah.
Following that, we have Nick Aldis recapping the chaos of the tag division using some sort of chart, and it really just served to show how convoluted things had gotten with the tag division. And he says, however, tonight, to help determine a true and real number one contender, Motor City Machine Guns will battle Pretty Deadly and Los Garza in a number one contenders triple tag team match. And that ends up being our second match of the night. And did you want to speak to this one a bit?
This one, okay, so I will say that I was happy to see Pretty Deadly, okay? The Motor City Machine Guns are Motor Gun City Machines, and Los Garza are okay. I don't dislike these guys at all, but I mean, it was a mid-card match, and it was just mid. Long story short, I can't even think of anything that really stood out that was like, wow, in this particular match. I can tell you Pretty Deadly can come out now with the little crop tops and do the little finger things now. For a minute, they stopped doing that, and we're taking on a role a little bit more, I guess, masculine in the eyes of WWE, or whatever they believed masculinity to look like. Then Monday they come out and they're just yes boy this and yes boy that. So I guess they're back on the menu, being whatever they want to be. And thankfully, they won this match. And I'm okay with that. Now, this is supposed to be the number one contenders match for whoever wins the match that's coming this Monday. I think it's this Monday between DIY and Street Profits, which is why Street Profits wasn't in this match.
It'd have to be the following Friday, I think.
Following Friday, not Monday. Sorry. So this SmackDown coming is the match that, and that's what he did with this stupid chart thing that made no sense. Yeah. So, but I mean, long story short, the second match of the night was okay. It was okay.
I tend to agree with you. This was a fairly paint-by-numbers match. The two big things that I liked about it, one, Kit Wilson showed off some sort of like Twist of Fate-looking variant that ended in like a code breaker or a first 48 that looked really cool. I'd never seen him do that before. And that Pretty Deadly won. Instead of being continuously buried since they've hit the main roster. But that was really it. This was this was a paint by numbers match. Nothing outstanding really happened.
Yeah.
In the in-ring work.
Now, if I may, the next segment
is Amazeballs, and you absolutely may, please.
The next segment was it was a BET black soap opera / drama that I did not have enough popcorn in the house to indulge whilst watching. And I know
popcorn in the arena.
Yeah, now I know I said all that, and people are probably like, "What? WWE did what?" Yeah, no, trust me, guys and girls, this shit worked. I don't know how they made it work, but they made it work. Maybe it was the convincing acting and whatnot. I don't know. But Bianca comes out and she needs Naomi to explain herself. She needs her to explain. Okay, she needs some splains to her. And so Naomi comes out, and basically, I mean, and again, I'm not gonna give you guys the play-by-play. But Naomi comes out and tries to I guess try to change the subject, tries to deflect. She tries to move the goalpost several times when Bianca just wants her to answer whether or not she attacked Jade. And then it went from that to Naomi saying basically how she felt about Jade, which was she thought Jade was basically essentially using Bianca, standing in her limelight and basically stealing the show. And when that didn't work, she pointed out that she was the one who stepped up whenever Jade got injured and this and that, and she's been helping her week in and week out retain those belts. And then they just started arguing where they were talking over each other, and Bianca finally had had enough of that shit and was like, "I'm gonna ask you again did you do it or not?" And
it's a simple yes or no.
Simple yes or no. And so finally, Naomi admitted that she did it. The crowd's like, "No, Cakes, why?" Me, I'm cool with it. There's nothing better than some heel cakes. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm curious how a Naomi heel turn ends up looking.
Yeah, so I'm here for it. But she admits it, and Bianca is devastated, and so she's walking out of the ring. Naomi's trying to get her to come back. Basically saying she did everything she did for Bianca.
I did it for The Rock.
Yeah, exactly. Bianca's still walking, and then I think Naomi ended up calling her an ungrateful bitch, which made Bianca stop and turn around all slow, like a angry cat, Mm-hmm. She turned around like, "I beg your pardon," and then Jade Cargill's music cuts, and she walks out. Just like the Angel of Death, the bloody Angel of Death.
The first thing we saw, though, was where the camera was when Bianca made the turnaround. We saw in the Titantron that someone had just arrived. Like, they cut to the parking lot, and you see a car pull up, and Jade steps out. And we're like, oh, shit, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
But I digress. Please continue.
Yeah. Well, since we brought that up, I pointed out that she was late. "Oh, girl, you late. You driving up." The show has already started. I guess you were watching it whilst it was happening, and I guess that's what let you know that your ass was late. But you drove up. You looked great, but I just want to point out again. I just want to reiterate, late.
That's on Randy Orton time.
I'm just saying, you fuck around, and that's how you get pushed into cars, because you fucking show up before, like, after everybody else, and ain't nobody got a camera on your ass. You lucked out this time. You lucked out. So show up on time so that you don't get yeeted into cars. Okay? Yeet. So But all in all, that there was a good segment. Once Jade Cargill came out, she just whooped Naomi's ass yet again. Um, because I mean, she whipped her ass based on speculation, I guess, and then she whipped her ass because she admitted it. So she got a double ass
Yeah,
whooping,
yeah. She got
one
whooped.
for
Like
each
she
cake.
got yeah, she got thrown out, bashed into the announce table, thrown into a ring post, thrown back in, and hit with like a super jaded. And with then Jade just stood over her and told her the hell off.
Yeah. So that was a long, delicious segment. Um, that made me quite happy. After that, we found out. Uh, no. After that, we had a Brian Saxon interview with Drew McIntyre.
Brian Sextant.
Brian Sexton. Um, Brian Sexsmith. Byron.
Baron Sexy Tauntaun.
Sexy Tauntaun. Byron Furniture Sexoon.
Vidal Sexton.
He had a backstage interview with Drew McIntyre
McIntyre.
with Dr. Ooh. He had an interview with Dr. Ooh.
With Doctor Who.
Anyway, apparently some people said that Drew's attack on Damian Priest was unprovoked. I don't know who said that. I don't know, but whatever. And Drew wasn't shocked by what John Cena did at the Elimination Chamber. The Elimination Chamber. He would have saved the WWE Universe from getting their hearts broken if it wasn't for Priest stealing the victory from behind and costing him his last shot at the WWE title at WrestleMania. Provoked? Drew says that's well deserved. And we're on the road to WrestleMania, and because of Priest, Drew has nothing. He has nothing to give but violence, and it starts with the black sheep of the family. So we all know what that means. But then after that, we got a nice, awesome little clip of Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor? My God. Lex Luthor. That from Cody Rhodes, that he's going to be the latest addition to the 2025 WWE Hall of Fame.
This was a genuinely kind of touching segment because Lex Luger has been battling his health issues with DDP.
Yeah.
And so that Cody Rhodes showed up while Lex and DDP were kind of working out and gave him the news. And then Lex, who has been wheelchair bound, actually was able to stand up and hug Cody Rhodes. Was really pretty cool.
Yeah.
Thumbs up for that segment and congrats to Lex Luger.
Boss mode engaged. Yeah. And then after that, Byron Saxoon had another backstage interview, this time with Charlotte Flair. And I think he asked her why she decided to ambush Tiffany Stratton after her match. Basically, Charlotte says that she didn't ambush her. She warned her. She had been warning her, and I'm like, you ambushed her. I don't know what you saying that you were coming for her. Like you still ambushed her though, but whatever.
Yeah.
You're the queen, so I'm not gonna argue with you. And then she basically said, "No one will compare us to the queen." But BFAB came up and was like, "Hold my crown," because she feels like maybe she can compare, and she wants to let Charlotte know that she ain't all that in a bag of chips. And then Charlotte was like, "Oh yeah, well I will see your ass in the ring, but not that Friday, next Friday."
No, next Friday in Barcelona, Spain.
Barcelona, yeah,
Barcelona. Yeah, I believe BFAB took exception to the fact that Charlotte said that since she'd been gone, the whole division had become soft, and she's like, "Excuse me, you say
Yeah.
the whole division is soft?" And when Charlotte was like, "Yeah, no one compares to the Queen," and BFAB said, "No one's trying to, and no one's interested in bowing down to
I
Charlotte
mean,
anymore."
listen, they get look. I pretty much what I said, what I had said, I thought was pretty accurate. I mean, you have to.
It was. It was.
I'm just
I'm
saying.
just. I'm just riffing off what you said.
I'm just-
And I'm excited. I remember thinking at the time that this is a real good opportunity for BFAB to get put in the ring with Charlotte Flair is good, and it signals to me that they're taking BFAB as a competitor seriously.
I think that's a good look. I mean, I hope she's ready because I mean, I know she's not gonna win, right? But this is a huge opportunity.
It's a huge opportunity to put on a good match with Charlotte, and if you can do that, it doesn't matter if you win. You're still getting shined.
Yeah, this is huge.
Yep.
So,
and yeah, some of those parts were the best parts of this SmackDown, honestly. The Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Jade Cargill segment, especially the first parts with Bianca and Naomi, were outstanding. And I agree with you. Like both these women really committed to this. So it really gave you the vibe that this was a falling out between friends. And there was a point where Naomi was turning into like a weird stalker of Bianca Belair, like a sycophant. And then when Bianca wasn't having it, she was like, "You ungrateful bitch." Yeah. And so I was like, "Oh, that got dark real quick." We see the dark side of Naomi. All right. And so yeah, some of that was way better than most of the matches on the evening, which were mid to meh, with some exceptions. After the segment with Charlotte and BFAB, we are brought to the third match of the night, which is Braun Strowman versus Solo Sikoa, because Braun Strowman takes exception to Solo Sikoa's interference the previous week. And they slug it out pretty good, but it pretty much gets to a point where Strowman decides that the match is over and levels Sikoa with the body slam. Yeah. And that's that. And then it looks like Solo's about to be pinned, but then Tama Tonga jumps in and starts hitting him, so it ends up being a Braun Strowman victory via disqualification instead of by pinfall. But relatively shortly, Strowman handles both Tama and Solo, and then out comes Jacob. And this is where things got interesting. Like the whole precursor match was a setup for what's about to happen. And Fatu and Strowman start freaking beating the hell out of each other. And then they beat the hell out of each other out onto the floor and around ringside. And eventually, you end up with Strowman and Fatu on top of some production crates. And they're going back and forth, but Strowman ends up grabbing Fatu by the throat and choke slams him through two production tables. And this is looking like it's going to be another monster match, kind of like it was with Strowman and Big Bronson Reed, who I hope is recovering nicely because I miss seeing him. Yeah. He was on a real big push before he got that injury. But this, Strowman and Fatu, is looking like it's just going to be a monster battle, and I'm here for it because I think both of those men can work great together and do crazy stuff.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I'm excited for it. And you know what? It'll be really cool if if they're having a match where it's like Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu, and then all of a sudden Big Bronson Reed's music cuts and he comes out there. I'm good. Merry Christmas to me.
Oh man, that would be a bad night for Braun Strowman because if they end up in some sort of like Falls Count Anywhere backstage throwing trucks at each other kind of a match, then Braun Strowman's going to end up contending with both Solo and Tama Tonga. And so he's going to have to fight uphill against like all of what, the remnant bloodline, I guess. And so if you throw Big Bronson Reed in on it, man, Strowman's in for a rough night because I don't think he's got it at that point. Like just going with Jacob is going to be rough, but him dealing with all of that, woo.
It'd be even worse if Bronson Reed shows up and just goes right back to being in the bloodline.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the very least, he's friendly with them, right? And he doesn't like Strowman, so he doesn't necessarily have to be in the bloodline to be with the bloodline on this. Although
Yeah,
he
that's
does
simply
look
what I
the
meant.
part. Yeah, he does look the part. Like he could be a member.
Yeah, that'd be a good fucking day, though.
Yeah. That'd be a crazy, awesome, just slobber knocker of a match, and I'm so here for it.
Yeah, the ring would break that day.
Oh yeah, yep. The whole arena might be rendered into rubble.
That'd be awesome. All right.
Cars will be flipped, rings will be broken. It would be fantastic.
Yeah.
That is a great matchup. Following that, we have another segment with Brian Sextant. Man, this guy's busy tonight.
Yeah,
This
he
time
is.
he's backstage with LA Knight. And
Yeah.
LA says, let me talk to you. I guess it was all gas, no brakes with Jacob's keister going through the table, making reference to the choke slam. Yeah, man, he's messy.
So messy.
He says the man who costed the U.S. Championship is now out of the picture. No distractions. That means tonight he's going to pretty much take Nakamura to BFT Town. And he goes on to kind of cut a weird bit of a finishing promo. He says he stood tall against the sneak attacks, the red mist, all glory. It's needed a better representation as of late. I think he said old glory, actually. And he says we could all pledge allegiance to the United States champion with everybody saying LA Knight, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we are brought to Chelsea Green checking on Piper Niven, and she's pointing out how she's going to need Piper's help in her street fight coming up with Michin. And Zelina Vega pops in, and Zelina pretty much warns Chelsea that she's coming after whoever wins this street fight in the Women's United States Championship. And Chelsea tells Piper to pull it together. And a couple of times she's mentioned that, we need a new member of the Secret Service.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the fourth match of the night, if you would like to speak to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be brief. Chelsea Green versus Michin in the Philadelphia street fight. Again, WWE needs to let go of what they call street fights, especially when there are promotions like AEW who are giving us brutal street fights. It just ends up becoming comical, and I don't know why they think Michin is gonna come out there and do anything different than what she's done in any other street match that she's ever been in. She's gonna drag out a trash can with some bullshit in it, like 2 broomsticks and a mop or some shit. It's gonna be some dumb that she'll maybe use once. She's been known to bring out 2 kendo sticks, and if you're thinking one for each arm, you're a fool. She's gonna give one to her opponent for some fucking reason. Aside from that, I'm gonna say this, and I fucking mean it from the bottom of my heart. And honestly, I have never been more serious about anything. Ever. We'll say
Ever?
Ever.
Oh, shit.
Michin needs to fucking stop twerking. If I see you pop your back one more time, Michin, I don't know what you think. It looks like something bit her and she's trying to get it off of her. I'm not sure.
That bug on her back?
I don't know what's going on, but girl, if you don't fucking quit it. I don't know who told you. Yes, girl, twerk every chance you get. Stop it. They lied to you. They're mad at you. I don't know. They have it out for you. Whatever the case. You know what? I'm getting off topic. But long story short, bitch quit twerking. Now, after my eyes regained focus from her sharp ass twerk,
I had to close them at risk of being stabbed by the poison.
Yeah, seriously, she was trying to give me fucking surgery I didn't ask for. Trying to cut my corneas out and shit. Stop it. Little fucking sharp PlayStation 2 graphic looking ass. Stop it.
It's just two polygons shaking at you.
Just two. I snorted. Girl, quit it. Okay, just stop. You made me forget what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, some of this stupid match. Okay, so, again, this was like just a mid match, and it served one purpose, and that's, again, this has been the theme lately, with WWE, and I guess it's because we're getting up to WrestleMania, but seriously, every freaking match, is literally just a match so that they could set it up for something else. And in this case, it was to set up the new secret Hervis member, that saved Chelsea from losing the belt. Yeah. And that secret, who was it? What was her name? It's Alba Fire. Yeah. Alba Fire is the new secret Hervis member. She came out and did the salute and everything.
Yeah, and to be perfectly honest, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. Like across this same weekend between these two episodes, from SmackDown to Raw, we partook of AEW Revolution, and we will probably do a podcast on that, maybe. But that was an amazing pay-per-view.
Oh, good. Oh, my goodness.
The level of in-ring work that was done by most of the matches there. Not all of them were winners. There were a couple that were meh. But there were also some groundbreaking and historic shit. Long story short, what they have in the way of a cage match or a hardcore match makes whenever you get like a street fight or a Falls Count Anywhere or anything in WWE look like a joke with what they do in the ring. You know, you've got Meechin coming out here with a couple of kendo sticks and an aluminum foil trash can and like an aluminum foil cookie tin. And we're expected to think, oh, this is hardcore. It's not. Not when, by comparison, you have tacks and broken glass. And, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's a sad mimicry of what hardcore wrestling matches actually are.
Yeah.
And I realize that the product is still rated PG and whatnot, but I mean, it just, it makes it incredibly difficult for me to take these women or men hitting one another with what amounts to toothpicks and aluminum foil seriously.
But just to piggyback off what you just said there, I also realize that they are PG. Right, or PG-13 or whatever, but I don't think they realize it, because if you know that, then stay in your freaking lane.
Yeah,
just have good matches in your lane.
Yeah, and even amongst like hardcore matches that I've seen from WWE, like this is still. I mean, this wasn't even the best hardcore match between Meechin and Chelsea. The dumpster match was better.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a relatively mediocre match that served exclusively the purpose of having Alba Fire become the new secret Hervis member. And I don't have a problem with storyline piggybacking on the back of a match. I have a problem with the match itself being relatively lackluster and essentially pointless as a means to that end. Like, the match itself wasn't worth bothering with, to be perfectly honest. It was relatively mediocre. So that's kind of my take on this one.
Yeah.
Ultimately, because of Alba Fire, Chelsea Green remains your WWE Women's United States Champion.
But they act as if she wasn't going to. Like I honestly don't think we needed anybody to help Chelsea. That's the other thing about this. I'm not sure. I don't know. I just I can't figure out what the representation is for Chelsea. Yeah, or for a lot of their female competitors. Yeah. They give up the belts so easily, and I'm not complaining about that. I actually like the belt movement. I like that a lot. But I'm just confused by what their motivations are for a lot of the stuff that they do. And Chelsea, when she was going for the belt, she didn't need any help. When she was going through these competitions, she was just kicking ass. She was winning because she was good.
Yeah, and now it's like they've reverted
and
to
now
the
she's
only way
gone
she
back
can
to
win.
yeah, and it's like, what is that? Why does she need? Why does she need a secret? It's funny. It's funny, okay, and I get the shtick, but and why, if I may ask, why are we just putting Piper Niven in this kind of role? Why is she a supporting cast member, and why are you making her job whilst doing that?
Yeah, is it time? Like, is it? I mean, like timing, like for the show length. Like, do you just need to have 3 or 4 women in one segment because there's just not enough time to showcase them all individually?
Well,
Or
maybe if you quit playing the segment of Elimination Chamber where John Cena goes heel and kicks Cody Rhodes in the dick, maybe if you quit showing that 5 or 6 times every fucking episode,
in full length, and this is
maybe
after
enough
they'll
time
tell
for
you.
that.
This is after they will absolutely tell you this has been the most viewed thing on social media. So of course they're going to play it themselves
Yeah,
800
because
times,
it's
and
the
then we're gonna
only
have to
thing.
pack 5 wrestlers into one segment because we don't have time for that wrestling crap that's happening on our wrestling show.
Yeah, who has time to watch a fucking wrestling? Fucking come on, man! Nobody wants to see that. We're here for these fucking promos, bruh, and this recap. It's all about the acting, man.
Yeah. I'll speak to that more later when we're talking about Raw, but the amount of not wrestling or recapping that they do on both SmackDown and Raw in particular is egregious with this, is absurd.
Yeah.
And so if you attempted to tell me that you don't have enough time to showcase all of your roster, I would be like, yeah, but you had like an hour's worth of non-wrestling related crap that you decided to cover on the show. So that's stupid. But I digress. Yes. After that, there was
Yes.
a recap of the John Cena and Rock video package that took probably another 5-10 minutes out of the show. And then we get The Miz telling Nick Aldis that he wants Cody Rhodes as a special guest on Miz TV, and he's trying to pitch this idea of like Miz and Carmelo doing it. But Carmelo ends up saying like he wants to ask Cody something. The final boss offers you an opportunity of a lifetime. You fumble it at the 1 yard line, and that's when he goes on to say he goes on to address Randy Orton's opening promo where he said some stuff about John Cena, and he said he would have people like Randy. He wouldn't have people like Randy Orton talking smack after coming off the couch for 4 months and playing Fortnite. And at that point, Randy Orton earns a little bit of gamer cred saying, "Fortnite's for kids. I was playing Elden Ring." I'm like, hell yeah, Randy.
Yeah, fucking Elden Ring.
And Nick schedules the match between Carmelo and Randy Orton, and Randy tells Melo not to fumble the bag at the 1 yard line, throwing his own words back in his face. And then we come to Cody Rhodes' segment, where this is the first time he's made an appearance since he got beat down by The Rock and John Cena, and more beat down by the unprofessional loser known as Travis Scott. And so Cody Rhodes comes out like a beaten dog. He doesn't even whoa with the crowd or anything. Like this was like very somber. And he goes on to say something about like, what do you say to someone who's not even 4 years old when she looks up to you and asks what you happened to your face? And I'm sitting there thinking the same thing you would tell her anytime you caught a shiner or a bruise. You're a professional wrestler. But I digress.
Yeah. On top of that, bruh, she ain't gonna remember what the.
Yeah, and he goes on to say it's not a conversation he was prepared to have, and I'm like,
How? How are you not prepared to have that?
If I were a professional wrestler or a boxer, I would just have to explain to my kids that I do a job where I could get injured. I don't know, but like you're trying to make this way worse because of the drama. I get it. And he basically goes on to say, you know, he told his kid that he ran into a wall, which wasn't entirely untrue. It's just that wall happened to be the final boss, Travis Scott and John Cena. And I was like, well, at least it wasn't that wall that Bianca Belair is on her own and can't like get away from. That wall is a creepy stalker and is
Yeah,
dangerous.
that wall is deadly, bruh.
Seriously. Um, and he goes on to say how he's known John for years and he's always looked up to him, and he appreciated the slogan "Never Gave Up." But apparently, John did gave up, and so
John, you did give up.
he did gave up, and so essentially, he ends up saying,
Is John Cena gave up?
does gave up. So he ends up going on to essentially say that at last year at WrestleMania 40, where he was trying to finish the story, he was celebrating with his old friend John in the ring. And John apparently told him that the title gets heavier every day. And he said, well, here it is. I'm 300 plus days into my reign. And the title is, and he lifts it up to show that, he can. And he says, it's not heavier. John, thinking that the next, your successor had to look like you, talk like you, and be like you. That's not the case. You're convinced that you're the last of your kind, and you're not. I'm standing here, I'm holding this over my head as if it weighs nothing, and at 41, I'll do the same thing. John, clearly you want some, come get some.
I want to point out, though, that he was not holding that belt above his head when he said that. He was holding it at head length. I'm sorry, guys. I'm
like
that person.
To the side, yeah.
Yeah, it was not above his head, though. That's all I'm saying. It was right next to his head.
And we're going to catch another promo from him on Raw, because Raw acts like nobody who watches Raw watched SmackDown and vice versa. So every one of these kind of crossover promos has to be done on both shows, but they essentially amount to the same thing, which is how they end up being exhausting in some respects. Like, I really do think that had a lot to do with like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens' stuff being over promoted prior to Elimination Chamber. Like to the point where it's like, come on, man, let's just get on with it. You've said enough.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the 5th match.
Oh, boy.
Which is Drew McIntyre versus Jimmy Uso. And this is the kind of rubber band match. This is their 3rd match, where Drew McIntyre beat up Jimmy the first match. Drew McIntyre beat up Jimmy the second match, but Jimmy managed to squeak out a pin, like a quick pin victory. And in this match, Drew McIntyre essentially just squashes Jimmy like a grape. And the entire purpose of this match, besides burying the shit out of Jimmy Uso, unfortunately, was to set up Damian Priest coming out afterwards and attacking the hell out of Drew McIntyre. And basically, Priest gets out there and just starts taking it to Slugfest City until the referees and the officials break them apart. And so now the feud that a lot of people, Drew McIntyre, I guess, was worried that people didn't catch it after Royal Rumble. Now the feud with him and Priest is off proper. Yeah. And it's based on the fact that Priest eliminated him from Elimination Chamber, and now Priest is super pissed off because McIntyre, attacked him blindsidedly at the beginning of the show. And so, super big feud between McIntyre and Priest, which was the entire pretext for him wrestling Jimmy again. And unfortunately, it wasn't even like a close match. Like, there was a point where McIntyre just decided Claymore to the face and it's over. Like, it's done.
Yeah, it was a squash match.
Yep.
Of course.
And then would you like to discuss the promo coming up?
Well, we had a little vignette with the Street Profits talking their smack. And then we had a Shinsuke Nakamura promo. And he basically said, try not to cough. Sorry. Let's try that again. But he basically said, LA night after Louisiana night after tonight, you'll finally have no choice but to accept reality. A reality is that the United States Championship has passed you by and is firmly in my possession. I knew that you stubbornly would make one final attempt at my championship. There is no better location for the death of your dreams than the birthplace of the United States. After the battle is over, I will continue to be the champion you never could be. Tonight, you will beg for mercy, and you will find none. Mic drop.
Mic drop. This was actually a very solid promo from Shinsuke, I thought.
Yeah.
And that led us into the final match, the main event, and the sixth match of the night, Shinsuke Nakamura versus LA Knight for the WWE United States Championship.
And finally,
come back?
well, yeah, unfortunately. But finally, we got ourselves a legitimately good match. It took us getting to the last match of the freaking night to do so.
Yep,
but here we are.
A match that had good in-ring work and was a match for its own sake, not promoting some other thing that's more important than this match.
Yeah. This one was really good. And Knight, Knight, I think I'm choosing my words here because what I'm about to say isn't exactly true, but it kind of is. How can I say this? LA Knight. You know, I know how to say it. This is true. LA Knight, from when he when his popularity peaked, and it may seem like to us overnight, you know, people were chanting LA Knight, but I mean, he had been in the biz for a minute, and but when it hit, when he was at the height of his popularity, I remember watching him in the ring. Say, like, when I saw his match with Bray Wyatt, watching that, he was good. He was good, and LA Knight has always been good. But now the stuff that he does, the way that he gets to some of his finishers, the way his response, or his counters to a lot of the stuff that his competitor good. He looks so much more seasoned. That's the word. That's what I'm looking for. He looks like a much more seasoned competitor now. And I don't know what it is about him and Shinsuke, but I feel like they work pretty well together. As opposed to Shinsuke with Cody. That didn't look good.
Yeah,
it never looked good. But Shinsuke, I don't know if it's because Shinsuke needed some time away and he came back, because he's looked good in the ring ever since his return. And they've used him in small doses too, which is something else that I can appreciate. I wish they had done so. I wish they had kept that same hold over his promos or the camera around him when he's coming into the arena, you know, or when he's coming in for work. I wish they had kept that a little bit more on lock and key and kept him a bit more mysterious. But
Nakamura, right?
Yeah, Nakamura.
Yeah, definitely, because like his whole dark samurai character and like the promos he cuts, I feel like when they show Nakamura coming to the arena, like he just came from the airport and he's wearing like a 3-piece suit and he's got his luggage with him, that would be like showing any member of the Wyatt Six doing the same, or back in the day showing the Undertaker doing that. It completely, like, what is the point of doing like an over-the-top character like the Dark Samurai Shinsuke Nakamura, the like I'm an Oni samurai?
Yeah.
If you're going to then show him looking like a beatnik poet wearing like a little, you know, what is it, like a bowler cap and glasses in the next segment? Like, it really, you're killing it. Like, kayfabe, for fuck's sake, please.
And I'm not faulting him for not wanting to wear fucking makeup 24/7, right? Not everybody can be the Undertaker. That, like, the Undertaker is the GOAT for a reason. He is the standard, the gold standard. Sorry, they're yeah, sorry they're shouting, but he is the gold standard. So there's a reason for that. But I mean,
Yeah.
Shinsuke has other stuff involved with his look. He's got the makeup. Maybe he doesn't want to come in from the bus or the airport dressed like that. So it's not up to him. I think it's more up to your camera work. Maybe don't be up his ass when he's coming in.
Yeah, I think whatever value you might get for being able to show him do that is undermining his like character that he's portraying way more
Yeah.
than it's worth. Like some kayfabe, please. I mean, we get it.
Yeah.
You like all this behind the scenes kind of crap, but kayfabe,
Yeah.
right?
Please.
Like every so once in a while, it's cool to watch those shows where how the magic is done, but sometimes you just want to watch the damn magic show.
Yeah.
You know,
Sometimes I just want to see the trick, man.
if I watch a television show, I don't necessarily need to know the ins and outs of the actors. I want to watch the show. So
Yeah.
it's like you've abandoned kayfabe here especially for Shinsuke Nakamura, who's trying to portray a very over the top and mysterious character. And I just don't think it works. I think you're really undermining it.
Yeah, I agree. But I digress. Tess. But aside from that, and I got kind of off topic there, but going back to the match, Shinsuke and LA Knight put on a banger. LA, as I said earlier, looking more and more like a seasoned professional, man. He reminds me a lot of Randy Orton. Like there's a lot of similarities there. He reminds me a lot of Stone Cold. Like he's a combination of a lot of wrestlers that I like.
He is. He's like an amalgam, but
Yeah,
I agree with
but
what
he
you're
makes
saying.
everything his own. It's not.
Yep.
I don't think he's a copycat.
No.
I see LA Knight and I see LA Knight. So you know, a great performance. And as I said earlier, Shinsuke Nakamura has come back, and since returning from his hiatus, he has been amazing to watch in the ring. Aside from what they've decided to do with his character backstage or when he's in the audience, that's not on him. So fantastic match this was, and I thought a tad bit of a surprise ending. I don't want to take up too much more time here because I know we have another episode to get into. But go ahead, please go.
I'm going to give just the recap of the final moments of this match.
Yeah, okay.
After a relatively good long beating, as we come into the final segment of the match, Knight lands a leaping neckbreaker. It looks great. He then power slams Nakamura, and then he hits him with a running elbow drop that looked really, really good. And then Knight puts Nakamura on the top turnbuckle, and they trade back and forth shots. And Nakamura manages to avoid the box jump superplex and turn it around on him and start hitting him with some hammer elbows, breaks LA Knight's eyes, and sets up LA Knight for an avalanche reverse exploder suplex. I'm not sure if he got all of it because it looked like Knight landed a little high, but I mean, Knight was able to continue, and it made the spot look just brutal. It was nasty looking, and so it was good. And then Nakamura attempts the Kinshasa, but Knight counters with a running lariat. And then he picks up Nakamura, who then fights his way out of a fireman's carry position. Knight drives Nakamura back first into the turnbuckles. Then he rushes at Nakamura, who sidesteps. And then Nakamura hits him with a step-up enziguri. Knight responds as Nakamura seems like he's taking to the top rope with a box jump superplex. And from there, he is able to deliver the megastar elbow, that sort of, double jump, but, blind because he's doing it backwards to the elbow, and it looks amazing. And at this point, Knight's fired up. He tries for the BFT, but Nakamura denies it. Nakamura exits the ring and grabs a steel chair. Knight takes it away from him, and then the referee admonishes LA Knight. Then Nakamura hits a discus back elbow, which kind of smashes the chair into LA Knight, but we don't get the DQ here. Nakamura brings the chair into the ring, and the referee grabs it out of his hands. And then I want to say that the ref is kind of close to the corner, and LA Knight is kind of in between Nakamura and the ref at this point, and Nakamura goes for the red mist. Well, Knight ducks that shit, but the ref catches all of it. Poor ref, having a rough night. Then Nakamura hits a spinning heel kick, and when LA Knight's doubled over, Nakamura hits a move that I hadn't seen him hit before, called the Scorpio Rising, where he sort of launches himself. He runs at LA Knight, launches himself up with one foot, and sort of comes down with like an axe kick with the other one on top of LA Knight. And I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And after seeing that, I was like, oh man, is it over? And then it looks like Nakamura isn't quite done yet, and he wants to get the chair, but Knight kicks the chair out of Nakamura's hands and connects with a BFT onto the chair. And then he goes for the pin, and the other ref is still dead, right, from the red mist, but another ref makes it to the ring and counts the 1, 2, 3. And with that, LA Knight is once again the new WWE United States champion.
Yeah.
And this was the best match of this episode of SmackDown.
Easily.
It was really cool that they had another title change on just a normal TV show.
Yeah, I agree.
So that match alone was very, very good. Unfortunately, that match was alone in being very, very good on this episode of SmackDown. So for me, in a quick review of this episode of SmackDown, I'm going to say this was probably about a 7. So it's not quite top tier, because so many of these, like 1 out of 6 matches was really worth anything. That's really not a good ratio for the matches themselves. But yeah. Shinsuke and LA Knight's match was very, very good, and the drama promo, however you'd want to call it, the segment with Bianca Belair and Naomi and Jade was very, very good. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it like a 7. And while that doesn't make it top tier, it's not terrible. But it was only not terrible because of a couple of parts. On the whole, it was a lot of parts were fairly mediocre to mid.
Yeah.
And what would your review for this episode of SmackDown be?
I would give this episode a 6. And
even less. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, only because a few great promos does not a great wrestling show make. I'm not here. I'm happy. I'm happy that she had some good promos. I'm happy that she had some good segments with talky words, and that's really impressive. But not when I say that this is a wrestling show. Like,
that's fair. That's totally fair.
You give me good promos, and then you give me shit matches. And then you reserve your good matches for the very last one. You made me sit through 5 other meh matches to get to a point. So basically, your entire show was promos, because even your matches were set up just so that you could set up a promo for another wrestler. So let that wash over you.
Yeah, unfortunately, it will wash over us, because that same thing continues in Raw, unfortunately. But I digress.
And then, Taz. I'm sorry. Every time it's gonna be in my head. Thank you, Botchamania. You complete me. But yeah. So, and I feel like giving a 6 is being really nice, because I mean, I feel like it should be a 5. It was just the match with LA Knight and Shinsuke was really good. If it had not been, it would have been a 5 easily. So 6, and I mean that's really it. It really wasn't that mid at best.
Yeah,
with great promos, man. Imagine if they'd given us some high energy insane matches. Still throwing in your little reason with your little promos and whatnot, and then gave us amazing promos. That would have been like a show that we would have been ranting
Yeah.
about. We would have been tired and still cut that promo, man. We would have been like, it's 3 a.m, but we gotta. But no, nah.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be either or. I don't think it has to be like, here's some really poor work rate and not
Yeah,
great
come on,
in-ring
man.
work. But here's like one match that's got some great work rate.
Yeah,
And here's some promos. And it's like, but it's a wrestling show, you
yeah,
know? So I agree with
exactly.
you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And unfortunately that theme persists into Raw.
Yeah,
But so your review was a six neck
yeah.
nubs, and so in both cases between the two of us, this was not top tier.
Nah.
You have to get an 8 or better to be a top tier show, and I hate to give away the ending, but Raw is not top tier either, and we'll
Yeah.
explain why as we move on to cover Raw.
There's a reason these two are together, man. There's a
There
reason.
is. They are. And this is for, of course, the Raw on March 10th that took place in Madison Square Garden. So I was expecting some bangerang matches. I mean, you're in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
A point that they will make a lot about how special Madison Square Garden and, New York is.
I'm like, you guys didn't treat New York like it was special, not with this episode.
No. Now we do start out with a good. We do start out how you probably should open every episode of Raw, and they have been, and that's with Jey Uso walking through the crowd, and then like outside of the actual arena proper, he's like in where the concession stands are. He's walking through the crowd, and he says, "Hey, pretty please, cut my music. Yeet." And then the crowd loses it. Like, this is a great way to get them hyped up. I absolutely adore Jey Uso, and I love what he's done with Yeet and the character he's carved out for himself. And all of New York immediately starts out yeeting, which is a great way to hype up this. It's a great start to the episode.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the first match is Jey Uso versus Grayson Waller, which just to like quickly go through it. Jey Uso beats Grayson Waller, then he's attacked by Austin Theory. He ends up spearing both of them to death, but after he spears Austin, he gets attacked by Gunther, who puts him in the sleeper hold to make him go asleep again. And that was exclusively the reason this match existed. Outside of maybe being able to open the show with Jey Uso, this match served no other purpose than to give Gunther an excuse to come out and make Jey pass out. So this is another match that is a complete throwaway match. Nothing to write home about. With the sole purpose to just get Gunther out there to put the sleeper on Jey. So the theme,
and that was
unfortunately,
it.
continues.
Yeah.
Jey Uso won by pinfall, but he lost by sleepy times to Gunther. And then we get a recap of kind of CM Punk and Seth Rollins hating the hell out of one another, because tonight the main event is going to be them in a steel cage. And we'll get there. But that's another match that more or less exists to set up something else. But we'll get there. We're also told that WWE 2K25 comes out this Friday. So for anybody who are fans of that video game, there you go. Or if you bought the special super deluxe packages, I think the Island of Relevancy and the Undertaker pack, you've been playing it in early access. I'm still watching with caution to see if it's enough different and enough good since 2K24. So there you go. For anybody who was interested, that's where I'm standing with it. But there you go.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the Alpha Academy trying to give some consolation to Jey Uso, and they say, we've got your back. And I'm thinking, twice now, Gunther has come out there and choked them the hell out. One, I don't really think you have Jey's back. And two, even if you did, Gunther would just kick the crap out of all three of you. So that was weird. Because it's like, you say you have his back, but you haven't really. That's the first weird part. The second weird part is, what would you actually be able to do to Gunter? He would just destroy all of you.
Yeah.
Maybe you could provide a distraction long enough for Jay to kick his ass. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
And then we cut into a very bizarre promo. Logan Paul comes out and is basically booed, like booed like Dominic Mysterio trying to talk on the mic.
Yeah.
And there's this thing that WWE, especially on Raw, is doing where they're name dropping like that annoying ass at a party who went to a convention once and met somebody famous, and they're like, "Hey, I met blah 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 blah." Now they're doing that all over, and the thing that upsets me is, one, it's very try hard and kind of sad, the way that they're celebrity name dropping, and two, it takes the focus off of the wrestling superstars, the WWE superstars. It's like you're saying our superstars aren't good enough, but look, we've got these Hollywood and music superstars that are way cooler, right, guys? Right? And it's just it's kind of pitiful, if you ask me. I mean, maybe other people disagree, but like, they showed us Andrew Schulz, and they take an inordinate amount of time to show you other celebrities throughout the night that are sitting in the audience, and they leave the camera lingering on them for like 2 minutes, so they start being awkward and weird.
Yeah.
So that's what this segment turned into. Logan Paul is there, and he ends up addressing Andrew Schulz, who's in the audience, and I don't know how anybody feels about Andrew Schulz or Logan Paul. But this is like taking a heel and trying to also take another heel, because Andrew Schulz is not super popular because of what he said about Kendrick Lamar at the moment. So him and Logan Paul are about as popular as like a turd in a punch bowl.
Yes.
But for some reason, we're expected to care that Logan Paul drags Andrew Schulz into the ring and wants to beat him up because he asked Andrew who he came to see, and Andrew's like, AJ Styles. Nobody shows up to see AJ Styles. I wish that was the case. When AJ came back at the Rumble, I think it was, and like the crowd did jack all. I mean, no offense, AJ Styles is a legend, but he is like watching paint dry. And I hope they can turn that around for him. But like, Andrew only said that because this is a segment. So, of course, then Logan Paul grabs hold of him, throws him in the ring, and tries to start roughing him up. And AJ Styles comes out and, gets the one up on him. And he's like, "Oh, you walking away from a fight?" And Logan's like, "Yeah." And then it ends with Andrew Schulz being able to stand at the corner with his hands up. And that whole segment really didn't do much for anybody. I was not impressed with it.
No.
Then we get, I want to say there was some Ludwig Kaiser vignette, and then we get a video recap of the main event with Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky for the Women's World Championship, which we talked about on our previous coverage of Raw. That was a fantastic match with a tremendously surprising ending. I'm actually like more interested in that than some of the stuff that happened with John Cena, and I think that's because they have already in just like a week oversaturated me with these shots of John Cena and The Rock and these recaps with it.
Yeah.
So now I'm like kind of turned off to it. Like, you've overdone it. We're also shown some other celebrities that are in the crowd. The only one that I thought was at all worth noticing was Obafemi, because he's actually a member of the WWE.
Yeah.
So that brings us to our second match. And I feel like I have been talking quite a bit. So would you like to speak to our second match? I'm guessing that's a no.
No. Of course. Our second match of the night was The New Day versus the LWO in a Tornado Tag Team match. And nothing of any real importance happened in this match except for the ending, which was essentially someone coming out in a luchador mask, that has basically the American flag on it, and the name of oh god, and the tag, the name American made written on it.
That's so subtle. Who could it
And
be?
yeah, we have no idea. Pat has no idea. No idea who this person is.
Yep.
Michael's like, Cap, and Pat's like, no, I don't know. They're wearing a mask. I don't know. But this person appears, and they give a flying Hurricane Rana off the barricade. I don't know who they did that to.
All of this secret individual's attacks were against Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio because this individual apparently has unlocked the secrets of Lucha Libre.
Yes. We have no idea who it was, but when he did after he got done attacking Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio, he did his he put up 2 fingers from each hand into the air like 2 peace signs, and what was it? What did he yell? Gracias!
Gracias! Yeah, so I can't think of anyone on the roster who throws up, double, like 2 fingers and says essentially thank you. Thank you. I couldn't think of anyone on the roster that does that.
I don't know anybody. I mean, real talk, I don't know anybody. I think that this individual was probably mimicking Chad Gable, if I were to guess. So maybe they're a huge fan of him, and I don't blame them.
You think it was somebody who is a fan of Chad Gable that also has a American-made luchador mask?
Hey, anything's possible. He could be a huge fan. He sees that his hero is in trouble, and he has the solutions. Hey, maybe he's trying to get his attention to let him know that he's the luchador that he needs to find. Who knows?
Oh, maybe that's it. But
yeah,
I mean, for a lucha guy, this dude had an incredible stalling German suplex on the floor. I'm just saying, Chad Gable could learn even something about German suplex.
Yeah, you study what you love, man. So this guy's very passionate. Very passionate. If I were Chad Gable, I would seek this gentleman out. That's just me. But winner by the distraction of that amazing mystery luchador, the New Day. So LWO has yet to win a match, with over these guys yet. So. There you go.
The New Day apparently has their number.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it ain't 619.
This was another relatively nothing burger match, except for the fact that it set up this mystery individual who was very Chad Gable-like, and then that individual takes out running away from the Madison Square Garden security guards. So, yeah. The theme persists, unfortunately. But following that, we are brought to Finn Balor venting about Braun Breaker. And at first, it's just him venting with a camera, because they're zoomed in to the degree that you can see that he hides this pot of gold in his nostril. And then they zoom out and you realize he's talking to Carlito, who apparently is studying for his master's degree in apolology. So essentially he's not even paying attention. And then the rest of Judgment Day enters the clubhouse, and Liv Morgan mentions that Bayley feels entitled to a shot at the Women's Intercontinental Championship. So later on, her and Raquel are going to have a match to determine who gets to be the number 1 contender. And Liv goes on to say that Dom had some news for Finn. That Dom had talked with Adam Pearce, and Finn goes, "Oh?" And Dom says, "Yeah, it was about Braun Breaker." And Finn's like, "Oh, so you probably got yourself a match with Braun Breaker." And Dom's like, "No, I got you a match so that you can have a shot at the Intercontinental Championship." And Finn's like, "I love you, Dom," and gives him a big hug. And Then Finn sort of walks off the segment. So Finn Balor will be getting his ass handed to him by Braun Breaker probably next week.
Yeah, probably.
Yep. And then they go over some more celebrities. One of whom was Macaulay Culkin. I thought, oh, neat. He's not home alone. He's here watching wrestling.
Oh my god.
And that brings us to this week's Cody Rhodes.
Which was essentially the same promo from last
more
week,
upbeat.
except yes, he was more upbeat. That was it, and I really feel like that's all that needs to be. Like seriously, guys, that's all he did.
Yeah,
it was the same promo, man.
He basically told John Cena what's what. Yeah. So he cuts another promo on John Cena, but this time he's not like a beaten dog. He's more like, I'm the captain.
Yeah, this time he's not like, so, I'm rubber and you're glue, so,
yeah.
I don't care, man. It's less of that and more like, yeah, I'll beat you up. You guys just wait. I'll beat you both up. I don't even care, man. Yeah, so.
Yep. And then I think we got a commercial for WWE's Evolve, and also told that CM Punk will be a special guest on Looking for Group, or LFG, their other shows. There's so much time that's devoted to recap their other shows, other sports that I'm watching wrestling. I don't need to know what's happening in NASCAR, basketball, football, the UFC, none of that. I don't care. I'm watching WWE. I would like to see stars of the WWE. If I want to see Hollywood stars, I'll fucking watch a movie. You know what I mean?
Fucking watch a movie?
See, what did I turn into Drew McIntyre for that?
You said, I'll fucking watch a movie.
I'll fucking watch a movie. I will if I want to see Hollywood superstars. Yeah, thanks, Drew. Didn't know you were on the show. Glad you didn't claymore me. But yeah, it is becoming a bit of a sore spot. If there's issues, like, they've got to find a happy medium. Like, over here on Raw, like, we have too much of the show that's being taken up by not wrestling matches. But then on SmackDown, they give us like 6 matches. And in both cases, out of 4 matches on Raw, like, almost none of them were, in and of themselves, worth a shit work rate wise. Like, these were all mediocre as crap. So, whether it's quantity or less quantity, because quality has left the building, there's just not been a lot of great wrestling on these 2 shows.
Speaking
and I really hope they change that. Yeah, there you go. There's your segue. Go for it.
Speaking of mediocre, 3rd match of the night, Bayley versus Raquel Rodriguez with Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio, or Mysteria, as Michael says it. Yeah, man. Bayley has been kind of falling off as of late. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if she's tired. I don't know if she's not getting the opportunity to work with these people before she gets into a match. I don't know. But
yeah. I tend to agree with the sigh.
Yeah.
Now,
sorry, I was just gonna say that sigh is because I love Bayley. It's very upsetting. I don't know what's going on, but she's going down the road of Shayna Baszler right now, which, by the way, has just fallen off the map. I don't know where she went. So, yeah. Now, were you about to ask?
I was just going to say, I want to be real clear that when we're saying these matches are kind of mid or mediocre, it's not a botch fest. They're not technically screwing anything up, but they're also not good or entertaining. Like, at least not for the in-ring work. Like, if you have any appreciation for the moves that happen and what actually occurs within those, 4 sets of ropes, these are not at all like anything to write home about matches.
And that's by number matches.
This is my complaint. It's not that they're screwing stuff up, other than the fact that, like, what you're choosing to do is not very entertaining.
To me, it feels like matches that they would have when there's no one in the audience and they're just warming up with each other. Like these matches are nothing burgers. Um, and like they are wrestle by numbers to me.
Yeah.
It's just so it's meh, and it's watching superstars we see day in or week in and week out doing things amazing. We're watching them do stuff that we know they can do better.
Yeah,
Or and I don't know what's going on. If you're reserving energy or whatever, that's cool. But maybe this is the time to push other superstars, other talent you have back there. Maybe push them so that they can elevate or keep your game elevated instead of using the same people that apparently are tired right now, man. Or maybe they're saving or reserve their energy for WrestleMania, whatever the case. They ain't ready to wrestle. They ain't coming to wrestle. That's not what they came to do. So I don't know.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And if they are reserving people or playing it extra super safe, it's too safe. It's boring.
Yeah, it's boring.
And the problem I have with that is that like WWE is the biggest name in the pro wrestling market in the West for sure, and probably the globe now that it's partnered with UFC and their parent company TKO.
Yeah.
That said, they fancy themselves being the best in the business, and I'm like, well, I just watched AEW Revolution, and I've seen shit in a ring that blew my mind. And then you're giving me this stuff that looks like it's like Little League practice on your main roster.
Yeah.
That isn't okay for me. Like, that's not good. I'm not going to give that a top tier. Your storylines are cool. The wrestlers all are talented, but what you're doing in the ring is lame as shit compared to other options.
Yeah, I mean, that's yeah. So with that being said, this match was what you would expect between Bayley and the sometimes or the often awkward Raquel Rodriguez. Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio interrupted and distracted whenever possible, and they did so enough that eventually Rodriguez dropped Bayley with the big boot, and then she gave her the Tejana bomb, and that was that. So the winner was Raquel Rodriguez via pinfall. So.
Yep, indeed. And that's how I felt watching that match. I felt like Bayley had control of that match for a long portion of it and didn't seem like neither woman did much of import for the bulk of the match. And it wasn't until the very end, after just a little bit of distraction, honestly, from Liv and Dom, that gave Rodriguez the time she needed, that Rodriguez finally like hit almost like a Bayley to Bayley on Bayley, but onto the announce desk. And then from there, Bayley had to try and meet the count, and she runs in and then proceeds to run directly into a big boot and then the Tejana bomb, and that was it. So I didn't see much out of Rodriguez except for the finish. You know, and I didn't see anything impressive out of Bayley either, and that kills me because she's one of the 4 horsewomen. So you ended up with a really kind of lame-ass match. I mean, it felt like Rodriguez was just waiting until her cue to finish it, you know? Like, why not just start with a boot and a Tejana bomb next time if that's all you needed to do? Yeah. Because that's all you did.
Yep. So, I mean, that was a shrug match.
Yep. But Raquel is going to be the number 1 contender then for the Women's Intercontinental Belt. Ta-da! I mean, this match didn't even set up or have like a run-in or a surprise or anything. This is just a lame duck of a match, unfortunately.
Yeah. After that, we had Kathy Kelly. She has a backstage interview with Chad Gable, and she was asking him about him coming out with the luchador mask and he has no idea what she's talking about.
And she's like, Cap.
Yeah, she was not buying that. But then while she was arguing with him, we saw back behind them, the cameraman catches the New York police carrying away another gentleman with a American-made luchador mask on. And Chad Gable was like, "Yeah, not Cap," essentially.
Yeah, it was. This I actually thought was one of the funnier segments of of the show, because Kathy was like going hard at Chad about like, we all know it was you. Same build. The guy who was wearing the lucha mask was also wearing the exact same outfit that you're wearing right now. And Chad's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So you're being led to believe that Chad is just lying to her face. But then behind Chad, a guy dressed the same, wearing the American-made luchador mask, is getting escorted out of the building by the New York Police Department. So this ended up being kind of a funny switcheroo. And so Kathy's like, just left with her jaw slack after Chad walks off. It was funny. That was legitimately a funny part of this episode.
I agree. Yeah, it was really good. But hey, they aren't suffering in the promo department. That's all I'm saying. That they've been doing real good there. So, after that, we had a Io Sky interview, or we tried to have an Io Sky interview. Michael Cole is in the ring, and he introduces the brand new women's world champion, Io Sky. She comes out and the audience is cheering for her, and they're doing the EO, because I mean, hey, she's awesome. And Io gives us a amazing speech in English. And it was really awesome. But the real highlight of this was Michael invited Bianca Belair out. And she comes out and she's very cordial because it's Bianca Belair. And she gives Io her flowers, congratulates her. And basically tries to explain somewhat why she was out there. And she mentions Rhea, which of course, you say say her name, and she appears, right? So
I believe in Rhea Ripley.
Clap. So here she comes. This is her brutality. And she's like, shut that shit off. Rhea Ripley comes out. She's like, turn my music up. Cut my music. MJF, you asshole. Anyway. So anyway, she comes out, and this essentially, like, she gets into the ring, and this essentially turns into a huge argument between her and Bianca. And Io tries to break it up, and Rhea pushes her away by the face, and I'm like, oh shit. And then they get into each other's face again, Rhea and Bianca. And then Io tries to interrupt again, and this time Bianca pushes her by the face and continues with her verbal assault to Rhea. And they're right on top of each other, these two. And Io has had enough of this shit and basically separates them and slaps the shit out of Rhea. Like, she slapped, like, Rhea, when she came into the ring, she had a particular taste in her mouth, and then suddenly she could taste nothing. It just went flying out of her face into the audience. I mean, if you look in slow-mo, maybe put on the infrared, you can see it leaving her body like her soul. And then she turns around and looks at Bianca, and Bianca has this look on her face like, oh damn, I'm so glad I didn't get slapped. Seconds before, she got slapped the shit out of by Io as well.
Yeah.
She slapped Bianca so hard, Bianca spun around like a cartoon character. She crumpled like a Tom and Jerry cat. Like, oh my god. She fucking hit the ropes like a human-made slinky. And then Io just jumped up and down like an angry treasure troll in the ring, very angry. She was yelling at Rhea. She was yelling at Bianca. Fuck knows what she was saying. I think it had something to do with her being the champion, and they just kind of came in and just shit all on her spotlight. She's like, nah.
Yeah, it was the women's world champion saying, "I'm the champion, and I will not be disrespected by you two chuckle fucks."
Yeah, and they respectfully did not attack her back because I think their faces. Well, first of all, Rhea was probably just shocked because she was like, "I tasted bubblegum before I came into the ring, and I thought, I still have a piece in my mouth, but I can't taste it anymore." Like, but then she was like, "I can't taste shit." But then she was trying to play it off because she's in the ring. And what is she gonna do? Like, this is a medical mystery she needs to handle backstage. Right now, she has to play her part. She just kind of sat there like a cow looking at a new gate, holding her face. And Bianca had those cartoon paper clips spinning above her head, along with some birds. So I don't think she knew what the fuck was happening. At that particular moment, she was thinking, I wonder if she could eat staples. So she didn't know what was happening.
Yeah,
and
she was at a loss.
Io treasure trove, treasure doll, treasure trove, treasure troll dolled. She treasure troll dolled her ass out the ring, still screaming about being the champion. And I mean, she proved it because she pimp slapped two giant superstars and then left.
Yeah, she was just talking mad shit in some combination of English and Japanese about both of them the whole way back out the ring.
I also want to point out how they stayed silent until she was halfway away from the ring, and then they started arguing with each other again, quiet, like two kids that just got in trouble. Like, it was your fault.
They got reprimanded by Io.
Rio's like, see, that's why you got slapped.
Yep.
So yeah, that was probably the highlight of the night, honestly. Well, one of the highlights of the night.
Mm-hmm. That was a good segment as well.
And yet, it was a promo. So, burp. But never fear. Never fear, ladies and gentlemen. Because, well, first we know that next week on Raw, Penta's got a battle with Ludwig Kaiser and a no-holds-barred match, which just means that they're going to be in the ring and they're going to do some cool shit. And there's no disqualification, I don't think.
Which might mean Pete Dunne interferes.
Probably. And we know that Dakota Kai is going to have another match with Ivy Nile. And we know that Braun Breaker versus Finn Balor for the WWE Intercontinental Championship is going to be happening as well.
Man, what? That's basically going to be Braun Breaker destroying Finn Balor and stealing his Lucky Charms.
Yeah, just yeeting his little ass around. So I can't wait to see that one. Whenever he gets his ass beat, I promise you he's gonna blame Dominic for it. He loved him to death because he got in the match, but when he loses, he's gonna blame him.
Well, what'll happen is all of Judgment Day, as it stands, all of male Judgment Day, I should say, so Carlito and Dom, unless JD McDonough makes a miracle recovery, will attempt to help and get destroyed, and then Finn will get destroyed. I'm waiting for that to be the case so that Finn comes back and acts like it's his idea that they should maybe get a new member for Judgment Day.
Yeah. That I would find absolutely hilarious, but yeah, they should do that. They also let us know that NXT Women's North American Champion Stephanie Vacour was in the crowd.
Yay!
Yeah. Right before we got to our fourth match
and main event,
CM Punk versus Seth Rollins in a steel cage match. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys before I turn this over to my partner here. I'm being perfectly honest with you guys. This match, fair or unfair, I compared it immediately to an AEW match that I just saw, and I'm sorry. I feel like I had no choice because I just saw this match. They just had AEW Revolution Sunday. That was literally yesterday. Today we're watching Monday Night Raw, and they have another steel cage match, and this is supposed to be like a grudge match between two dudes that hate each other, just like the match in AEW was. We had Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher. And I know it's unfair to compare, Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay to CM Punk, but there it is.
I wish I could say this match didn't do it for me exclusively because of Punk, but that's not the case. But I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, no. He wasn't the only one that sucked in this match. It's just I couldn't compare CM Punk to either Will Ospreay or Kyle Fletcher. I could compare Seth Rollins to them though, because Seth Rollins can go. He can fucking go in the ring. I think sometimes, and this is just my opinion, sometimes I feel like WWE can hold back a superstar, especially the bigger they get, the more they don't want them to take any risks. And that's fine. That's fine. You're insured. You're a wonderful meal ticket for somebody, and they want to make sure that you continue to feed them. I get it, but sometimes they can do that to a superstar's detriment, where they like Solo Sikoa before he became bigger could do more moves, and then suddenly all he could do is that thumb bullshit. And that just kind of loses the allure for a lot of people. Solo Sikoa stopped being a lot more. He stopped being as interesting to me when he was just doing the thumb business, and that's it. So I kind of feel like in this case, sometimes they can water down the stuff that an opponent can do, and maybe Seth Rollins had no choice because of who he was against. I'm not sure, or who he was up against. I'm not sure. But I don't know whose fault it was here. Both of them, I would say, looked equally as unimpressive in this match. And I feel like they didn't do anything but make each other's finishers look like shit.
Yeah.
CM Punk did his go to sleep on Seth so many times, and Seth just did not fucking sell it. By the same token, Seth did his stomp to CM Punk so many fucking times, and CM Punk just did not sell it. And then they started doing each other's moves to each other, and did not sell it. And so, if this had been a match where they did a lot more to each other, if they had really gotten into it and pulled out other moves, and then as a last resort started hitting each other with their finishers, and they weren't selling them once or twice, that would have been epic. Instead, this match was nothing but them doing finishers to each other and not selling them.
Yeah. There's, if I may, there's a couple of points that you've just brought up that I'd like to speak to.
Please?
Most specifically, the point that you made, and this is a great point, about like being so safe and so protective of the wrestlers so that they can make the next showing and the next date, that they have watered down the product to the point of, mediocrity.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. And just to give some examples, it would be like if, to make sure that boxers show up or UFC fighters show up, no more punches to the head, no more kicks, no more. In fact, it's now thumb wrestling. That's it. You're only allowed to thumb wrestle, and when you get it, if you can make the other guy tap, you win. Or if it were, just to use the NFL as an example, the National Football League, if they made that flag football to avoid anybody ever getting hurt, there's no more tackling. None.
Yeah.
It erodes the very reason people are looking in the first place. I want to see the big tackles and the brutality of football when I watch football. I want to see the brutality of people taking absolutely roundhouses to the fucking face when I look at UFC, or boxers that are hitting like combinations and uppercuts that knock somebody the fuck complete out. So I get that wrestling is scripted. We know who's going to win, but it's as athletic and as risky as any of those other sports. And you are watering it down by playing it so safe to the point that your competitor, like you brought up the comparison between watching Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. It's like I'm watching the little league of pro wrestling versus like here's how they really do it.
Yep.
You know, and it's not new. This is the same shit they were kind of doing in ECW, and it kills me. Like I don't think they need to go to the same level as AEW does, but for fuck's sake, like they act in WWE like Kevin Owens doing a pile driver is like serious business, when in any match on AEW you'll see 2 or 3 pile drivers before the match is over and the guy gets up. You know, so it's ridiculous.
Bruh, the ladies in AEW are giving out fucking package pile drivers for Christmas. Like, it's not.
Yeah, so it's such a degree of difference that I can't help but invite the comparison. And some of these matches, even against, if I compare apples to apples, like WWE style, this particular cage match, I agree with you wholeheartedly how they just made each other's finishers look like they mean nothing. Like, by no selling them to the degree that they did. Like, I'm with you, kicking out of one once, like, because the match is that important, I'm with you. But, I mean, imagine if somebody just kept kicking out of tombstones from The Undertaker. It would be ridiculous. Yeah. They literally killed each other. But this wasn't even as good of a cage-style match as what Punk and Drew did. And I know that's Hell in a Cell, but, I mean, this isn't terribly different. Unless, you know, you want to climb up to the top and do some move off of through the cage roof. It's not that different.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like they did much. I was watching this match, and I feel like it was punch, 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 punch. And then Punk was like, I have discovered the elbow drop, so I'll do 85 of these. And then it was like, oh, here's an STF and a, what is it? A Cobra Commander. No, whatever Punk's submission is. The Anaconda Vice, thank you. I knew there was a snake in there somewhere. And that was about it. Other than that, it was them doing their finishers to each other like 9,400,000 billion times to one another. And it felt like CM Punk was trying for the go to sleep from like the first move of the match.
Yeah.
And it would be one thing if they repeatedly were trying their finishers and they maybe only landed one, and then there was a lot of space for them to do other shit and then land another. But these guys at a certain point were back to back to back doing their finishing maneuvers to each other and just no selling them. And to me, all that accomplishes is you're coming away thinking that both the Stomp and the GTS are bullshit.
Yeah, and also it didn't feel like these two dudes hated each other. I feel like CM Punk and Drew had more vitriol between each other. I just didn't get the vibe between CM Punk and Seth, which is weird because I feel like I did. I feel like when this first started, I could feel the disdain for each other. But now I just don't know. It just wasn't there tonight. It just wasn't there. And if I were CM Punk, I'd be pissed because you didn't sell me a move. And if I was Seth, I'd be pissed because you didn't sell me a move. Like I just don't know what. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know what the.
Well, I don't think either one of them would be pissed because I'm pretty sure that was the plan, right? Like that was
yeah. No, I get what you're saying. I don't know. It ended up, and you know what? This ended up being yet another reason for a mini promo, because ultimately, this was not resolved. This is supposed to be the match that was going to resolve the issue. Like once it was done, this was it. and that didn't happen because at one point the gate was open. And they also did that too. They kept doing this like you can leave if you want, like CM Punk or Seth did it to CM Punk. Like you can leave, you gonna go cry, you can go cry. And then CM Punk did it to him. So the gate was just kind of open randomly throughout the match. And at one point, I think Seth had given CM Punk yet another stomp or maybe another go to sleep or who the fuck knows. And he was leaning up against the ropes by the exit of the gate.
It was after Rollins gave the super stomp.
Oh yeah, the quote unquote super stomp. And so then he was just leaning up against the ropes and staring at CM Punk and throwing some obscenities his way. And then we started to hear the audience going off, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on? What's going on?" And then I saw the chiseled, handsome jawline of one Roman Reigns as he just starts obliterating the fuck out of Seth. And you could see there's a moment on Seth's face where he realizes that it's Roman, and there was the realization it was at that moment. He knew. He fucked up. Yeah. He had a look on his face like, ah, shit. And boy, did Roman whoop that ass outside of the ring. He yeeted him out, which made Seth win the match. Because he left the ring, and CM Punk was over yonder, still in the ring, and Roman Reigns goes in on Seth and just whipping his ass. And he was about to give Seth a stomp while his head was on the steps, but people started running out, telling him no. And while they were doing that, Roman looks into the ring and notices that CM Punk is on his knees and basically being cradled by one Paul Heyman. And Roman did not like that at all.
No, he didn't.
So he quickly switched targets from Seth and went into the ring and just started beating CM Punk's ass. So he didn't have any real heat or issue with CM Punk. Now he fucking does. He went in there and beat his ass. Basically, he was like, "Listen, this is my way. I go on boat dinners together, and you are not gonna take this from me." So he whooped that ass. And that was honestly the highlight of the match, was when Roman Reigns showed up. Now, I'll turn it over to Captain Knows Every Move, and maybe Josh, maybe you got something else worth.
Yeah, I'll just recap the specifics about what Roman did to Rollins, because I feel like we've covered the finisher-a-thon that was this match that ultimately was just in service of achieving this thing. I believe I've predicted on one of our other podcasts that they were angling that the way CM Punk gets to WrestleMania is by way of a triple threat match with Roman and Seth. And looks like I was right, because that's clearly what this sets up. That said, Roman, after he pulled Rollins out onto the floor, pastes Rollins with a Superman punch, and then runs, a little ways away, and then spears the ever-loving shit out of him. And then that's not enough. He kind of throws him around to the other side near the entrance ramp, and literally he hits a curb stomp on him on the floor. But that's not enough. That's when he then takes him over to the ring steps, and it looks like he's about to end Seth's career. And
he's about to end his whole man's career.
Yeah, and the WWE officials all come and block it. And Roman fights him for a little bit, but then he notices what's happening inside the cage with Punk and the Wise Man. And he's like, "Oh hell no!" Actually, you could do that part better. Can you do it?
Oh hell no!
There it is. And he goes back in and he picks. He immediately grabs Punk, throws him. I want to say he smashed him into the cage once, and then he threw him to the ropes, and then immediately spears the ever-loving shit out of CM Punk, and then stands in the middle of the caged ring with the wise man in the corner with his, making the little prayer hands like, "Oh, please, God, Roman, don't kill me." And Roman puts the ones up, and we see the credits, and that's how this episode of Raw goes off the air. Now, I would love to be incredibly excited about that, because that's a cool thing. Like Roman Reigns coming back and this becoming a triple threat that will probably go to WrestleMania, I'm incredibly excited about. But the entire crappy cage match that led up to that point, and the fact that this feels like it was the theme for the past 2 televised episodes, SmackDown and Raw, that there's these matches that really are mid or mediocre that are in the service to some better story that's coming later down the line, is a recurring theme. Now, I get that these are the 2 shows that are following, a major PLE. I get that, but they don't need to be this lackluster. And there are some promos and stuff that were very good on this episode. We talked about them, and I'm excited that Roman Reigns came back, and I feel vindicated that, the triple threat that I predicted is in the works and clearly on the way. But this, at best, would be another 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So this is also not top tier because the in-ring work is just so bad. Like, these are really, really mediocre matches from the titan of this industry. And the people who are supposedly the best at this, they're the best in the world. I'm not feeling that. While I can make excuses for you, like, "Oh yeah, I guess you just did Elimination Chamber," it's not really my place as a reviewer. I'm trying to tell the audience whether this was worth watching. I would listen to this podcast, pick out the highlights, and just wait until maybe next week, because neither SmackDown or Raw had a whole lot in the way of in-ring action that was worth bothering with.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. So, my review of this episode is going to be 7 neck nubs, not top tier. How about you?
Yeah, for me, this one's probably going to be that 5 that we talked about. And that's because there wasn't a really good match here at all. The only thing that was really good was, the only thing that was close to a match that was good was when Roman showed up and started beating the snot out of Seth Rollins and CM Punk.
Yeah, that's true.
So this one, unfortunately, it's a 5. Man, it was aight. It was aight.
Yeah, I might be being too lenient on him. You might be correct. I was just really happy to see the tribal chief and have my suspicions confirmed, I think.
Hey, I feel you. I was very happy to see Roman. And I hope that this is going to lead us exactly where you said. To me, it couldn't, it can't do anything but. So, yeah, I'm here for that.
Yeah. I do have one final nitpick, and this became apparent in the final match. Mm-hmm. Can we get consistent with what you censor or what you don't on Netflix? One, no. I'm not sure why you bother, because you're inconsistent with it to begin with. But, twice the screen went black because middle fingers came up. But there were other middle fingers that made it through. There was a middle finger that Punk gave off of the top rope, and he literally, in a couple of cases, I heard him call one another motherfuckers and all kinds of stuff. So,
real talk.
It's very jarring for the screen to just go black. I'm sitting there thinking, oh, did my internet connection just drop? And it's pointless. It's pointless, and it rips me out of whatever I was trying to pay attention to on the TV show if you're just going to allow motherfuckers and shits and sons of bitches to slide through elsewhere. It's stupid. It is completely stupid to then censor any of that stuff. So either allow it or don't allow it and get consistent with it. I was hoping that when you came to Netflix, we'd have less of that dumb shit, like the audio completely cutting out, because the fucking audience in the arena that is, you're playing it for them, is chanting, holy shit. It's so stupid that you have to censor an arena chant. This is the people that you're attempting to censor that are the same people that are watching it. So what, all the little kids in the arena are just, I guess they heard the shit word. So just cut it out. You're on Netflix, for fuck's sake. It's not necessary and it's dumb. So Absolutely. That's my final little gripe about the product writ large, especially Raw. Like, I don't know what the latitudes are for SmackDown, but SmackDown's inevitably going to come to Netflix, so you might as well start getting your shit right now with Raw to be consistent when SmackDown shows up.
Yeah.
With all of that said, I want to thank everybody who listened to our double feature episode. I'm sorry we didn't have better things to say about WWE Raw or SmackDown. These were relatively mediocre shows. There were a couple of high spots. But I do want to thank you for listening to this podcast, and I hope you will tune in for our next one. And until then, I don't think there's anything for me to do but roll the outro. Bye, guys! Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.